Mel B and Plan B, genetically bees.
Answer me this, answer me this.
Why can't I have my pudding till I've eaten my peas?
Answer me this, answer me this. Helen and Ollie, answer me this.
Well, listeners, as we warned you last week, this is our last episode until we go off on a little holiday.
That's it, we're out of here.
So long, suckers. I've got my bucket and spade and I'm off to Cleethorpes.
Do they have a version of Cleethorpes where you're going?
What hell? I'll have to tell you after I'm dead, but I will come back and give you a good haunting to let you know.
Right.
We will be back on the 19th of April. However, if you need a little something to tide you over this gaping chasm of audio...
We've recorded an hour-long special one-off album.
Well, it's one-off unless it's really successful, in which case
Then
it's
we'll be
the
doing
first
them all
of
the
many.
bloody time.
Yes, it is a Jubilee special to commemorate the Queen's upcoming celebration of the length of time she has held the job of Queen.
And you can buy it now from iTunes.
Now.
So even as you're listening to this, if you want, you can go to iTunes, type in Answer Me This Jubilee, there it'll be.
57 whole minutes of royalist fun.
Everything from who decides how many guns are in a gun salute to...
what the Queen's tits are like.
and what's the point of the royal family, that's in there. So it's
It has to be, doesn't it,
it's
really?
a very royal friendly.
I'm not sure we adequately answer that question, to be fair.
Spoiler.
All this can be yours for the price of £2.49.
That's right, or $3.99 if you're in the US, or a similarly puny amount wherever you are that you like to iTunes in the world in whatever currency you choose.
I don't know how many ringgits or yen.
We get, for every album, I've worked out £1.27.
Do we?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Now that's then, listeners, going to be split between the three of us. So
Okay.
just think, oh, that Helen, Ollie and Martin, I've
Rolling
had
in
5
it.
years of free entertainment from them. If I saw them in the street, would I be prepared to give them 42 pence to thank them?
42 and a third pence
That's right, every third counts. If you would throw 42 and a third pence our way,
at each of us.
answermethispodcast.com/albums. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, you may have thought that you'd escaped Helen this week without any further discussion about Big Bird.
God, will there never be an end to this Muppet conundrum?
But, Helen, here is a question not about Big Bird, him/herself, but instead a very big bird.
Great. The best kind.
It's from Paul in Budapest, who says there's a 4-day weekend in Hungary coming up.
Yay.
Thanks, independence. And I'd had my heart set on spending the break visiting what I'd been told was the world's largest bird statue
You sure know how to spend a public holiday.
in Tatabánya. I do love our listeners, Helen. You
Yeah.
can bet there's no one writing into the Adam Carolla show asking about bird statues.
I wouldn't bank on anything. He's got a lot of time to fill every day.
However, a cursory Google search, Paul continues, sells the statue of the Taural there rather shorter, suggesting it's merely the largest bird statue in Europe.
Really? My cursory Google search suggests otherwise.
Okay, good. Let's
Yes.
bring this back on track
Yeah.
for Paul in Budapest.
Yeah.
According to some references, he says, it's only the largest in Central Europe.
No, if you read it properly, Paul, it would say it was the largest bronze sculpture in Central Europe, but it is the largest bird sculpture in the world.
Oh, okay, good. So, answer me this, Helen. What is the largest bird statue in the world?
That one in Tatabánya of the Taural, and it's got a nearly 15-metre wingspan.
And does it have stockings like Big Bird?
No.
Shame.
It's a mythical type of bird, not a bloody Sesame Street bird.
Oh, not a real bird like Big Bird, modelled on actual avian example.
Right.
Does the Angel of the North count as a bird sculpture?
No, that's obviously a human.
But it's got wings.
The clue's in the title, Angel of the North.
But the
Not Bird of the North, is it?
It's not Sarah Millican, eh? I think even if, say, in somewhere very show-offy like Dubai, they built a 30-metre wingspan bird sculpture, it's still worth going to see a 15-metre bird sculpture if
Yeah.
you're interested in giant bird sculptures.
That's right. If you're the kind of person who'd be interested in seeing the third or second biggest bird sculpture in the world, that should be enough for you.
We should be so lucky to see the biggest any sort of sculpture in the world,
Yeah.
right?
Hey, you know they've got that fourth plinth in Trafalgar Square?
Yeah, that awful rocking horse thing on it.
Do you not like it?
No.
I like it.
Oh, it's shit. It looks like it's made of plastic.
What is
Okay.
it? I haven't seen it.
All right. It's a child on a rocking horse.
It's gold.
Right.
It's gold.
It's crap.
It's deliberately kind
Crap.
of camp.
Crap.
What's that guy called Coons, is it? It does the big
No,
dice?
it's not camp like Jeff Koons. It's almost camp like an Anne Geddes photo of a baby dressed as a sunflower.
What it's supposed to be doing, and to be fair, I did have to read a lot of news articles so that I was like, oh yes, itchy beard, I understand. But what
There's
it's
nothing
supposed
to understand.
No, no.
It's just a golden
Okay.
sculpture of a boy on a
What am I
rocking
going to
horse.
say then, Helen, if there's nothing to
I don't
understand?
care what it means.
Right.
I don't don't care.
Fine.
It means nothing.
I care. Go on.
Yeah, well, maybe the listeners care.
It's a decoration. It's
Fine.
like a giant
Well,
Christmas
let me tell
decoration.
you what I read, and then you'll see whether you agree. I think it's interesting because the artist's intention is to subvert the tradition of equestrian statue in Trafalgar Square.
Okay, that's
so
clever,
the rest are
Rather
war
than it being
horses.
military, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the little boy apparently is looking away from the war horses because he's frightened of them.
What a dickhead.
Yeah, no, he's a child, Helen. And it's saying,
Oh,
look
he's
at the...
perfectly fine to be near the lions.
It's saying,
Nelson.
No, it's saying, look at the innocent fun of a child on a horse compared to these sort of hero worship statues of men on horseback
That's quite a good
going to war.
deconstruction.
And it's a subversive sort of anti-war statue.
It's not good enough for me. It looks bad. Bring back the ship in the bottle.
But anyway, what I was going to say is when the plinth next becomes available, which is 2014, I think, what you could do is build what is actually the world's biggest bird statue. Now, it'd only temporarily be the world's biggest bird statue, wouldn't it?
Why? Because everyone's always trying to one-up.
No, because the plinth is only a temporary thing. It's only for a
but
year.
the statue still exists. It would just be in a different situation.
Well, it would be in a museum or something, but I guess someone
Well,
could...
not that size. You have to put it outdoors.
Yeah.
Put it on the roof.
What I'm
put
saying
it on the
is-
roof, like it would scare off all the pigeons from Trafalgar Square, and that'd be a great thing.
What I'm saying is, Paul in Budapest, go and see this sculpture whilst it remains the biggest bird statue in Europe, because it may not be for much longer if I have anything to do with it.
Here's a question from Reva from Effingham, who says, I went to Egypt last month, and all the time we were there, for 3 weeks, the only song they played was Sex Bomb. Even though I could see there were loads of other CDs they could have played. Holly, answer me this. Why did they do this? Why? It's the biggest problem Egypt has right now.
Exactly, yeah. Not bombs, sex bombs.
Yes.
This is a Tom Jones song, right?
Yeah, that's right, from the album Reload. But you remember saying, let me unload all over your boobs. That's basically it.
Sex bomb,
would've
sex
remembered that.
bomb, I'm on fire.
I'm too old to ejaculate, so I just secret
Ejaculate
dust.
sparks.
Anyway,
I'm on a timer, hurry up.
I imagine, Reva, that it's just the locals satirising Western culture. They're like, if you're going to come here to a Muslim country and hole yourself up in a resort hotel doing aqua aerobics...
I'm not going to bother imbuing you with the local culture.
No, we're just going to take the basest, most sexually bizarre song about a horny old Welshman and play it to you relentlessly.
I tell you what, we're going to ape Guantanamo Bay. Maybe it's number one on the Egyptian hit parade.
It's possible.
Because often these things take several years to properly penetrate abroad.
Or maybe they just don't notice. When I was on holiday in Turkey, for example, the locals there didn't seem to notice that the whole time they seemed to be playing exactly the same Turkish pop song endlessly.
That's because all Turkish pop songs sound the same to the untrained ex-Turkish ear.
It's all Kiss Kiss by Holly Valance. But it was basically
Except
that.
with Tarkan instead of Holly Valance.
So I wonder if in the same way that kind of, to us, that all sounded like the same song, maybe to the locals, all songs sound like Sex Bomb anyway, so you might as well just play Sex Bomb.
Truly, all life is here.
However, there are a lot of bars that do just play the same music over again. When I worked in the bar at our university college, even though there were a lot of CDs, they had one of those massive donut-shaped CD changers, but the only 2 albums played were Pet Sounds and a Queen album, I think a best of. Mm-hmm. And even though both those albums are good...
Yeah, solid driving music, aren't they?
Working there a couple of nights a week, I can't listen to the Beach Boys. It took like 10 years for that to wear off.
Yeah, well, look what happened to Brian Wilson.
If you've got a question, email your question to answerme this podcast at googlemail.com. Answerme this podcast at googlemail.com.
So, retrospectors, what historical events are we ticking off on this week's run of Today in History?
On Monday, the anniversary of the day Ozzy Osbourne and a bat came face to face on stage.
On Tuesday, we go back to the future with a potted history of the DeLorean.
On Wednesday, why is the Pope guarded by those guys in floofy hats?
On Thursday, how the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame ended up in Cleveland.
And on Friday, was Henry VIII really an asshole, or was it just the result of a jousting accident?
We discuss this and more on Today in History with the Retrospectors. 10 minutes each weekday, wherever you get your podcasts. Time for a question from Tim, who says, a few months ago, I met a crazy lady from Brazil.
Yay!
She is 41 and I am 26.
Very good.
And it is strictly platonic. However, the other day, she asked me to marry her.
Strictly
That
platonic.
doesn't sound very platonic.
What a crazy lady from Brazil! I marry you, you bring me Brazil nuts.
I think some people will find that offensive.
That's not what Brazilian people sound like.
But for official purposes, as she wants to get a passport.
I see.
Oh, how romantic.
I know it's illegal
Yep.
and not morally right, but she did say she would offer good money.
Right.
I offer you good money, I crazy lady.
Please stop that.
What is that supposed to be?
To fool the law, you apparently have to stay married for 2 years. She said she would pay me £1,500.
For 2 years? That's rubbish.
That's a crap hourly rate.
Yeah.
Less than 15 quid a week.
It's probably about what I spend on hazelnut lattes to marry someone.
And that is a proper relationship.
Now, I'm not greedy in character, Tim continues, and work very hard for not more than the minimum wage, but this didn't strike me as much, nor us, considering the potential 2 years of my time. So, Helen, answer me this. How much is fair price for 2 years of official marriage?
Well, also you got to count in the fact that getting married costs money.
Yeah, that's true.
Even if you just do the bare minimum of turning up at a registry office.
It's got to be convincing, hasn't it? So that's you would spend more than nothing. Probably more than £1,500.
It's 66 quid just to get the licence. Now, if one of you is not British or from the EU or a diplomat, then it's really quite difficult to get the licence, I understand. Because they're trying to crack down on exactly this kind of thing.
Yeah.
A friend of a friend, he was marrying a man from Cameroon, and apparently the registrars demanded evidence of them being together for a long time. They interviewed various of their friends. They looked at correspondence going back over the years. They wanted to see photos of them together.
Yeah.
I also asked my divorce lawyer friend Nick, and he says if the government thinks it's only a marriage of convenience, they won't let it happen. They won't grant the licence. And in this country, you can't get married without a licence.
Well, also, if you're doing it knowingly and you're doing it for money, then you're breaking the law, aren't you? She's asking you to break the law.
Well, she could get deported permanently.
I mean, couldn't you be done for perverting the course of
fraud,
justice?
isn't it? It's essentially fraud.
Actually, couldn't we be done for perverting the course of justice by advising you on this matter as well?
Oh, we're advising him not to, effectively, aren't we?
I suppose so.
I mean, why does this woman want to stay here anyway? People speak highly of Brazil.
Yeah.
Is it worth all this inconvenience?
Growing
and
economy as
expense?
well, though.
I'm not sure though whether it is 2 years you have to stay married. You can't legally get divorced until you've been married a year, Nick says, as he rubs his hands anticipating Martin's and my first wedding anniversary. But actually maybe it's a visa thing. I think you only get a kind of conditional visa for the first couple of years.
I mean, let's assume that you can actually get away with it. What's your price?
I just think it's too much hassle.
For
both of you.
1,500 quid?
Yeah,
definitely.
don't do it for that.
Get a summer job in Asda.
I think the bottom line is 10k plus expenses.
Thank you. I mean, this guy's 26. I think if I was 21 and someone said, here's £20,000 to be married for 2 years, I'd be like, yeah. And again, when I'm 22, please.
Well, I'm a bad liar, and I don't think I'd do very well with the sort of immigration officials or the sort of Home Office people.
Hey, you convinced everybody at our wedding.
Just imagine having to explain that in your early 20s you'd had this, a marriage of convenience. I don't think a lot of women would be very impressed with that sort of behaviour.
That's the thing. If you're 26 now, you think, not got much else going on, not got a girlfriend, etc. What if you meet someone great 3 months in and you're like...
Meet my wife.
Yeah,
she's
it's
not
all right,
really my wife, it's platonic, and she's a crazy Brazilian.
But we have to make the government believe that it is a real marriage. It leads to surprisingly uncomfortable feelings if you take money for things that are emotional. I mean, this is marriage, and I know marriage doesn't mean much to you, Ollie, but I still think if someone had paid you to be married to them for 2 years when you were in your early 20s, I think you would have felt bad about it. It's like if a woman who you would have sex with anyway paid you for the sex... I don't think this would seem like the ideal situation in reality that it would look like on paper.
It does sound good. Isn't that just the same as if they got me a nice present afterwards to thank me for the amazing sex?
The present has to be of higher value because I went for over 10 minutes.
Where do you go to find all the answer that you are looking for? I will tell you the secret. Very good, very good. Where do you go to find the answer? AnswerMeThisPodcast.com. Where do you go to find the answer? AnswerMeThisPodcast.com. You will find your answer here. AnswerMeThisPodcast.com. You will find your answer here. AnswerMeThisPodcast.com.
While we're on our break, listeners, please do not forget to send us your questions via email, obviously, but I would particularly urge you to send them in via the telephone.
Yes, please, because we've had some quite ropey callers the last few weeks.
You can call this number...
02081235877.
Or you can Skype Answer Me This. and leave us a lovely voicemail like this one.
Hi, it's Chris from March. Helen and Ollie, answer me this. I'm just wondering, has anyone ever won the lottery using the Lucky Dip selection?
I don't even think I fully understand what the Lucky Dip selection does.
What don't you understand? You choose 6 numbers to play the National Lottery.
Yeah, and Lucky Dip is for people that are too stupid or lazy to do that.
Yes.
But what does it matter? I mean, it's so unlikely that numbers you choose through some system are going to win. You may as well choose Lucky Dip.
Well, in fact, it makes better sense. Because even though you're as likely to win using Lucky Dip as with numbers you've chosen, people tend to choose similar sorts of numbers to each other because they'll choose the age of their daughter or the age of their husband or their lucky number, which is usually 7 or something under 28.
It's actually very hard to be properly random if you try to be.
That's right. And in fact, this is the reason why Lucky Dip tickets, or if you live in the rest of the world, Quick Pick.
Quick Pick?
Yeah. I can see why they went for Lucky Dip.
Sounds more fun, doesn't it?
It does.
Like it's covered in sherbet.
Yeah, whereas Quick Pick sounds like something quite dirty, like picking a flake out your bum that you'd want to do very quickly and no one would see you.
Thank you, Ollie.
The reason that Camelot in the UK didn't introduce Lucky Dip tickets for the first 2 years of the National Lottery was precisely because...
Too winny.
It's a bit too winning.
Oof.
Because...
Those cheeky bastards.
It's more likely to produce a rollover if people choose their own numbers. Because the random result is just as likely to come up. But because no one's been doing Lucky Dip, it's unlikely that people will have chosen those random numbers. It's more likely that people will have chosen something like the most common combination, which is 7, 14, 21, 28, 35 and 42.
Oh, the 7 times table.
Well, apparently 10,000 tickets are bought for each draw with the combination 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. You're talking about people with no imaginations.
Seriously.
Those people should be playing Lucky Dip.
Why would you play the lottery if you're that much of a loser?
So the answer is yes, lots of people have won using Lucky Dip, obviously. I haven't managed to find anything on the internet that actually itemises exactly how many Lucky Dips versus how many non-Lucky Dips. But I think out of all tickets, Lucky Dip only represents about 10% of sales. So, of course, it's probably going to be around about 10% of winnings.
Here's a question from Kirsty and Chris from London, who say, Ollie, answer me this. Who was the last rock star to throw a TV from a hotel window?
This isn't a myth, this TV out of windows thing.
No, it happened loads.
I bet it still does.
Well, exactly. So how can we say who the last person was
it happened 5 minutes ago. Rockstars are cocks.
And televisions are so throwable.
Of course, they're a little bit less heavy nowadays.
Keith Moon did it. So did Keith Richards.
Didn't Johnny Depp do that? He trashed a hotel room in the era when he was going out with Kate Moss, so God knows what substances they were both ingesting, and he said, I'd been trying to swat a giant cockroach. $30,000 worth of damage.
Really? Was it that much?
Yeah. How do you damage that much in a hotel room?
The best one I read, because I just couldn't believe it cost this much for this one item, was Alice Cooper in the 70s. $5,000.
Yeah.
Because he turned over a Coke vending machine.
Wow.
$5,000 in the 70s. That's like 30 grand now for a Coke machine.
And I thought Alice Cooper was quite weedy. That takes a lot of strength.
Anyway,
yes,
I think I know who may be the last rock star to throw a TV out of a hotel window.
Can you even get a hotel window open enough to get a television out of now? Although they are flat screen, so you only need to open it a crack.
Okay, you ready?
Yes.
Matt Willis from Busted.
He's not a rock star, he's a pop star.
I know, but the last document I can find of any kind of musician at all throwing a TV out of a window, it was Matt Willis from Busted about 10 years ago.
Because why would you want to get rid of the TV? When you're in a hotel room, when you're on a boring tour, it's probably the only thing that's keeping you going.
Yeah, well, this is it. I've read a lot of articles about this, and apparently, like, when artists stay in hotels, their main concern nowadays is blackout curtains, so they can sleep during the day. Mm-hmm. They like a spa, if possible,
right,
and a late checkout, as well as somewhere safe to park the tour bus.
Hash browns at breakfast?
Yeah, it's that kind of thing, isn't it? They get snobbish about it, don't they? They say, oh, it's ridiculous. Who do they think they are? Rock stars, you know, they want it all. But actually, if you're away from home more than you're at home, it's fair enough to say, well, I want to stay in the best hotel in an area, in a place where fans aren't able to get into my room and stuff like that. But Matt Willis from Busted apparently was being interviewed by, I don't know, someone from Smash Hits or something, and the journalist was saying how rock and roll wasn't rock and roll anymore, and I know they weren't rock and roll, but they were a pop group pretending to be rock and roll.
Yes,
and
which was funny.
No one throws TVs out of windows anymore, so he did it in the middle of the interview.
Wow.
And then felt really guilty afterwards and was just worried that nobody was hurt.
You know what would have been a more interesting question? Who was the first rock star to throw a TV out of a window? Because you might be able to go back to the days of bluesmen to have like Son House kicking a TV.
And the TVs
were big in those days.
They were like the size of a wardrobe. and they actually had to get a porter to help them out with it downstairs, and then they just kicked it off the front doorstep.
I think you'll find Vera Lynn actually threw a Roberts radio out of the Ritz in 1927, so that wins.
I think you'll find that Mozart smashed up the Globe Theatre.
He kicked a fuck it up, it's called.
Here's a question from Luke from Lewis now, who says, my nan keeps a bag full of corks at the bottom of the bed.
Of course he does. We didn't have teddy bears in my day because of the rationing.
She swears these stop her getting cramps during the night.
Whatever makes it work for her.
So Helen, answer me this. Does this work? Or is it a pile of old lady bullshit?
Well, if it's a pile of old lady bullshit, it's a pile of old lady bullshit that the internet agrees with, but that nobody knows why. And I thought maybe if you have corks at the bottom of the bed, maybe it does something like absorb dampness from the atmosphere, which means your ankles are less likely to swell up. But no, people say, I keep a cork under my bed. Ever since then, the cramps have stopped.
That's ridiculous.
It's bizarre.
I mean, I know that there are whole areas of the human brain that we don't understand, that there might be levels of electromagnetism coming out of corks that we've yet to analyse, but basically that's just superstitious crap, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's harder and harder to find a cork now. Does a plastic cork work? Does it have to be a proper old corky
A
cork?
little screw bottle top.
It might have to be a cork bathroom tile.
Ah, now that would be useful because I've got a lot of those in my flat.
And do you have leg cramp if you sleep?
I don't. Oh
on
my
the
God,
floor?
it's a miracle.
I get terrible calf pains, and it is normally when the weather suddenly becomes a lot more humid than it has been.
Okay, well, apparently you can also press your finger on your upper lip to alleviate the cramp, or you can keep a spoon by your bedside and press that on the cramping area, Martins. Try that. Or you can use the ancient East Anglian method of keeping the 4 feet of a mole in your pocket. Now, how would you discover that the 4 feet of a mole prevented cramp? Do you look at a mole and think, well, they don't seem to have cramp in their back legs at night? Must be because their 4 feet are so close.
Although, Aretha Franklin, if you are listening to this, and I'm sure you are, you should do this.
Why?
Because she didn't turn up, did she, to Whitney Houston's funeral because she had leg cramps? That was the reason.
Because she had leg cramps.
Yeah, that's what the official statement was.
Now, in New Jersey, talking of New Jersey, where Whitney Houston's funeral was,
yes,
they used to believe, because it seems every region has some strange theory about cramp, but in New Jersey, they used to believe that you got cramp if you walked over a grave, and therefore, as a cramp preventative, people used to carry coffin handles. Can't fault that logic.
Stupid.
Here's a question from Joey, who says, I'm at university, and as a student, unfortunately, I can only afford cheap accommodation. Thank you, the Tories.
I think actually part of the student experience is living in cheap accommodation.
Yeah. And even if you were living somewhere quite swanky, it would be, firstly, wrong. Secondly, it would be trashed. It would look disgusting within a month.
Exactly. And if you look at all the people that actually have loads of money and go to posh universities,
they don't have fun.
Well, no, I was going to say they like to slum it anyway, don't they?
Like
they
Wills,
like to
he lived in a shared house, didn't he?
Exactly, because otherwise, you don't make friends with anyone other than people you went to public school with, and that's no fun anyway.
He says, the reason it is cheap is because I have a shared room with a fellow boy.
And you can watch us 24/7 at collegecock.com.
We get on to a point, but we're not the closest of friends. I'm starting to get close to a girl and have been thinking about potential future problems.
Okay.
Ollie, answer me this. How do I tell my roommate to leave when I want to have the room alone with my new girl without it being really awkward? Because obviously if he stayed in the room, it wouldn't be really awkward at all, would it?
I don't think that would be an awkward conversation. I think most other men would understand that very straightforward scenario. I think what would be weirder is explaining to the girl, who might have just accepted an invitation back to your room because, after all, that is the only place you can invite her.
You don't mind if Simon's just a couple of yards away, do you? He won't look. He promises.
No, not that. I think it would be weirder for her to get there and realise that you'd made machinations for him not to be there. Do you know what I mean? You need to make it look like an accident that he's not there.
Really? No, I think she would prefer it if she knew that there was a guarantee Simon would not return.
Yeah.
I think you need to say to Simon, we both want to get seriously laid, don't we? We're students. Let's have a signal, okay? So if you're going to get lucky, just let me know and I'll sleep on the sofa, okay? And if I am, I'll give you 24 hours notice. Now, tomorrow...
I think it would be perverse of this fictitious Simon to actually insist on being there. So however awkward you think the conversation may be, at the end of the day, he's going to say, all right then, isn't he? I mean, it would be really weird if he said, no, I have to be in that night.
But if Simon is that type of twat, then the only option you really have is to buy him some industrial headphones to block out the noise and put a screen up in the middle of the room. Then just go for it. You've done your best. But still, it might put her off a bit.
Well, either that or get him involved. Ask him to fill in when you're tired. Turn a bad into a good.
Hand you some refreshing drinks, maybe some extra lubricants.
Or just a towel.
Maybe do some
Cool
dirty
down.
talk.
Yeah.
But I think quite a lot of American listeners might not understand because they're kind of used to having roommates at universities, whereas here it's a relative rarity. But presumably, if you're at university in America, you have to listen quite a lot of the sexual activity of your roommate.
Actually, partly because of growing up in environments in which masturbation had to be very much...
furtive.
Yes. I don't make a great deal of noise during Congress. And I had to kind of learn my way out of that a little bit.
Is that because you make so much noise throughout every other aspect of your life?
There has to be some private sphere.
No, but
otherwise, how can you tell the difference between sexual activity and activity?
No, but serious point. And then having flatmates who were through paper-thin walls. You actually, you sort of train yourself not to.
Yeah.
I'm like the Hunt for Red October. I'm like Sean Connery, silent running.
Often I don't even know he's there.
If you don't even know what a question is, then you're probably at the wrong place. 'Cause religion's on godcasts, dogs are on dogcasts, fish are on rodcasts, but we don't do fish. 'Cause on this podcast, you answer me this.
Here's a question from Richard, who says, Queen Elizabeth I has appeared as a character in at least 78 films and TV series, according to IMDb. She's been portrayed by actors such as Judi Dench, Miranda Richardson, Kate Blanchett, Glenda Jackson, and John Cleese.
This is like one of those really awkward scripted bits of the Oscars, isn't it? And now, ladies and gentlemen, Kate Blanchett. Well, what of it?
So, Ollie, answer me this.
Mm-hmm.
Who is the most portrayed character in the history of TV and films?
Good question.
Ooh, it's a hard question. It's probably someone really rubbish, isn't it? Like Oliver Twist.
It is someone a bit rubbish. Well, I don't want to give you too many clues yet. You're going to say Oliver Twist.
Father Christmas.
It always used to be Sherlock Holmes, didn't it?
Martin's right that it used to be Sherlock Holmes. The
Okay.
Guinness World Record used to be Sherlock Holmes.
But records are made to be broken.
But as usual, clever Dick Zaltzman has got in straight away, ruined the entire game with her allegation that it's Father Christmas.
Allegation. Unfounded, Your Honour.
Yeah, I've got the full top 10 from the Guinness World Records
Okay.
here. You can guess how many films Santa Claus has appeared in.
Oh, that is really hard.
How many films? I'll say, well, let's work up from 10, right? Okay. So in 10th place with 226 appearances.
Blimey.
Count Dracula.
I would have put him in the top 10.
That's good.
Yeah. Now, I didn't think about Dracula. When you think about all the Hammer horror films and then all the spoofs like Leslie Nielsen and stuff, you can see that, right? Now, this really surprised me. 229 appearances at number 9.
Frankenstein?
No.
Jason, because they did a lot of those films.
Not as many as 229. It's for the other end of the market, to the horror movie market.
It's not Elizabeth Bennet, is it? Or Heathcliff or something?
No. Bugs Bunny.
The thing is, that's all the same actor.
So actually, out of everyone in the top 10, Mel Blanc's probably the most featured.
The most prolific film appearer.
Yeah.
Who's next?
So, okay, next is Sherlock Holmes that Martin said, 238 appearances.
What ebbs?
Next, never in a million years would have guessed. He's got a beard and he's stern. Who is he? He's got 247 appearances.
Is it Karl Marx?
No. He's a political figure,
Uncle Joe.
Top hat, beard, boring.
Oh, Abraham Lincoln.
Yes, Abraham Lincoln. At 286, he's famous for an internet meme and the Holocaust. Any guesses?
Hitler?
Yes, it's Adolf Hitler.
Wow.
Do all those YouTube videos count of the redubbed downfall?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
At number 5 now, he's the big guy, 295 appearances.
Andre the Giant.
It is, of course, one and the same, Andre the Giant, or as he's known, God.
Oh, but you can't really portray God. It's very difficult.
Well.
And in a way, he's in every film.
295 people have tried, Helen.
He's everywhere.
Next up, at number 4, with 325 appearances, is a chip off the old block.
Jesus,
yes.
Oh, presumably these are fictional characters. Couldn't be documentaries.
Yeah, because Abraham Lincoln is a fictional character. And then,
Yeah, but a character portrayed in a fictional work.
I see what you mean, yes. I don't think it includes documentaries, no. Good point.
Even ones with a cinema release,
Now we're
as we
looking
know,
at-
is more popular now than it used to be.
Now, we're looking at the top 3 now. You've guessed number 1 is Santa Claus. You've got to guess how many he's had in a minute.
Okay.
At number 3, with 396 appearances,
bigger than Jesus.
if you see him, you might catch your death.
Candyman. There are only 2 films.
Close. Who's like the Candyman, but has been around for a bit longer in popular mythology. He's got a scythe.
Oh,
Death.
Death.
Yeah,
Death
that's
is
right.
in more than God and Jesus.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? In the second place, which famous character has had 724 appearances, only marginally fewer than Santa Claus?
The devil.
Yes, the devil. That makes him more than twice as popular as God. Yeah, gets the last laugh.
Yeah.
So, bearing in mind that, the devil has 724 appearances. At number 1, Santa Claus, how many films?
And you said it was only a shade.
It's only a shade more. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
So
let's play higher, lower. Higher, lower.
Okay, 820.
897.
Lower.
748.
Okay, Martin, you win the points if you say it's higher or lower than 748, and you're right.
Lower.
No, Helen wins.
Hooray!
But you're still a bit off. 793.
That's good going. Well done, Santa.
793 Santa Claus films.
In a way, I'm surprised it's not more. I mean, because he's saying in the question, films and TV series. I reckon if you include Santa and TV series, he's going to go well into
he's all
four
over
figures.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I've just got films here.
Does that include Santas that are obvious department store Santas, like in Bad Santa?
Yes, I should think so.
Right, that's confusing.
Well,
there's about
it's still
3 or
going to show up
4
in the
of
credits, though, isn't it, as Santa Claus?
Presumably those mythological creatures like Santa, the Devil and Jesus flourish because they're not copyrighted. It's not like if you put SpongeBob SquarePants in all the films.
Well, I think, to be fair as well, that over time, people may be more interested in Jesus and the Grim Reaper than in SpongeBob SquarePants.
Let's
you think in
see.
200 years' time,
SpongeBob hasn't had
people will
enough
still be
time to
doing
prove
that?
himself.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Well, Dracula's there, so I guess that's had a couple hundred years, isn't it?
Oh,
As
it's
a
very
fictional
faddy.
character.
Very faddy. Well, we've done it. We've answered our last question, and it is time to go on holiday.
That's it.
Spring break.
Spring break!
Helen did actually just do a mime as if she lifted up her shirt.
Yeah,
even
girls gone wild. Woo!
Oh, God.
It's all right. I'm wearing a buttoned-up cardigan, listeners. No danger there.
I'm going to have to keep an eye on her.
But if you want to be truly wild, then the only thing to do this spring break is, of course, listen to our iTunes exclusive album, The Answer Me This Jubilee.
Is that really wild? Seems quite sedate to me.
Well, it's a way to prepare yourself for getting wild, or maybe in between bursts of wildness, chill out.
Learn, entertain, all these things in one £2.49 package.
That's right. So if you want that, type Answer Me This Jubilee into iTunes or head to our website and click albums and you can buy it there, and we'd appreciate it, and hopefully you'll enjoy it as well. Let us know.
And what we'd also appreciate is if you sent us some questions.
Oh, good God, yes.
All of our contact details are listed on our website,
AnswerMeThisPodcast.com, which is also the place to head, of course, on Thursday the 19th of April. Put it in your diaries, circle it in red on your walls.
You put it in your diary, Ollie.
Actually, I tell you what, put it in your Google Calendar. That's what all you kids use, isn't it?
You
don't use
don't,
diaries.
do you?
No, I've got Filofax. Yeah.
Get with it, 80s idiot.
And we'll see you then for more fun and frolic.
Have a lovely time in the intervening weeks.
Bye!
Bye.